Richard Cordray returns. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Laura Bischoff, State House reporter for the Dayton Daily News. Joe Ingles, State House reporter for Ohio Public Radio. Mike Gonidakis, Republican strategist, and Janetta King of Innovation Ohio. While we don't know for sure, it looks like Richard Cordray will return to Ohio to run for governor. Cordray has told his staff he'll leave his post as head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau next week. President Obama tapped Cordray as the first director of the agency established after the mortgage crisis. In Cordray's 5 years as director, the agency has aggressively imposed new rules on banks and financial institutions. That brought praise from consumer advocates, but criticism from Republicans who say the agency has too much power. Until he leaves his position, Cordray cannot discuss politics. It's against the law, but it's widely assumed he'll soon make it official that he wants to be Ohio's governor. Laura Bischoff, this was a bit of a mild surprise because early on the thinking was he was going to run. Then that kind of faded, especially as Bill O'Neill got into the race, and it looked like he was going to stay put, but now it looks like he's going to be in.
Right, I think he's going to be in. The thing that was surprising is that it's taken this long. He's now going to be under a compressed time frame to raise a bunch of money and to kind of reintroduce himself to Ohio voters. He hasn't been on the ballot since 2010, so 7 years, and he's been, like you said, out of politics. He's forbidden under federal law to really discuss politics, and so he's he's been working at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And I think his work there will give him a good platform, a story to tell, but he'll have to translate a lot of those numbers into human stories to say this is that I'm a fighter for the little guy.
Janetta, why do you think he finally decided to pull the trigger? You have to figure he was going back and forth a little bit anyway.
Yeah, and I think there were some things that he wanted to wrap up at the Bureau and get underway, and I think he did that and was able to set some things in motion, and that minimized the criticism of him leaving. And you see a lot of champions like Elizabeth Warren and others, saying good things about his work. I think if he left too early, he wouldn't have support of some of those people that are going to be great validators for him as he's running for public office.
Joe, if you look at the results from last week's election, particularly in Virginia, where the Democrats performed so well, he had to figure that if I'm going to run, right, this is the year to do it.
Yeah, he had to think that. He also knows there's two things here. He also knows that he can raise money pretty quickly to participate in the primary because the Democratic candidates that are in the primary right now that have filed, they haven't raised that much money. He can raise that money to be successful there and then go on in the fall. And he'll have a lot of Washington money, a lot of Washington backers who will come in and help him. So he knows that. And that makes a difference, too.
Now, Mike, I know you're going to say you really are looking forward to running against Richard Cordray. But Mike DeWine had a fundraising email that came out within an hour of Cordray's announcement. This is the candidate they've been watching, the Republicans have been watching.
Sure. I mean, we all know that Richard Cordray is well, at least inside 270, I should say, because Richard Cordray truly has no name ID statewide. Laura said he hasn't been in Ohio for 7 years. He lives in Grove City with his family, but he hasn't been on the ballot, nor has he been in the spotlight.
Serve as Attorney General. So.
He did, and Mike DeWine went against him and beat him, and he was a former state treasurer. But here's the issue. He has no name ID, no money, and he has no time. He has a base problem, too, because he's boring. He's a boring politician. I don't mean that negatively as a person, but look, the base, Democrats, they want pizzazz. They want Barack Obama. Rich Cordray is like a Lee Fisher, just a straight-laced guy, and it doesn't play well on the campaign stuff. But most importantly, last year the Democrats said, "I'm with her" was the big slogan. Well, the Democrats have 3 women to choose from here: Nan, Betty, and Connie. And it's going to be hard for Rich Cordray to persuade women and others to go to his side when there's 3 female alternatives.
But the one thing we can't forget is that he has the possibility to go after Trump voters with his message. He's been in Washington, D.C. He's been working for the little guy up against the big banks, up against all these big financiers. He's been doing that kind of work for a long time now. And he will take that message out with him when he's on the campaign trail. That's going to resonate with the same people who backed Donald Trump in the fall.
But the question is whether or not he can actually convey that message, if he can get the money to convey it, and then also I think Mike's right. He does have a kind of a reputation as not being super charismatic on the stump, but he's a really smart guy. He's got a great resume. We'll see. I expect the field will clear a little bit, but I don't think everybody's going to drop out.
Janetta, what about the women candidates in Virginia did particularly well. There's a lot of groundswell. You see, at least anecdotal evidence, that a lot of women candidates are energized, women voters are energized because of Donald Trump. Would it be better for the Democrats to have a woman candidate at the top of the ticket?
I do think all this has to play out in the primary. We'll see who stays in, who stays out. I mean, I do think it really is a great environment for women to run. They are harnessing a lot of energy. A lot of the people that you see out volunteering are women at the grassroots and on up. We do have Kathleen Clyde on our ticket that will certainly be on our ticket no matter what. I'm running for Secretary of State, and so that's certainly a very positive thing too.
Any chance that some of the big names running for governor would slide into another race between now and the filing deadline in February? Have you heard anything now?
I don't see a lot of room for that.
No, yeah. But most seats are spoken for on both Democrat and Republican side.
Okay. Well, the governor's seat was spoken for until the Cordray came in.
That's true.
All right, the Republican tax overhaul plan has moved on to the U.S. Senate. The House approved its version of the plan to cut corporate taxes and individual taxes. Central Ohio congressmen and women voted along party lines. Ohio's 2 senators are also on opposite sides of the plan. One of them, Democrat Sherrod Brown, got into a shouting match with Republican Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah over Brown's claim the tax plan only benefits corporations and the rich.
And I really resent anybody saying that I'm just doing this for the rich. Give me a break. I think you guys overplay that all the time, and it gets old. And frankly, you ought to quit it.
Mr. Chairman, the public
Wait a minute.
believes it.
I'm not through. I get kind of sick and tired of it. True, it's a nice political play.
Well, Mr.
But it's
Chairman,
not true.
with all due respect, I get sick and tired of the richest people
Regular
in
order,
this country
Mr. Chairman.
getting richer and
Regular
richer
order.
and richer.
Order.
We do a tax
Regular
cut for
order.
rich and middle class
Wait a minute,
rates.
Regular order.
And over and over
Wait
again.
just
How
a
many
second.
times do we do this before we learn this?
You know, Mike, I could use a gavel on this table. Those are the 2 arguments, very loudly and eloquently, in a matter of speaking, put out there. But the median income for someone in Ohio is about $46,000. Is that person going to benefit as much from this tax plan as a corporation that's seeing a 42% tax cut?
Well, no, because you can't compare. That's not apples to apples comparison. A corporation is not a single mom. A single mom making $30,000, one kid, will save will get $700 additional money in her pocket each and every year going forward, at least until 2027. That is. But you can't compare a person or a family or a single mom with a corporation. They're completely different.
The benefits to that mom, can you compare the benefits that mom will see to the benefits, financial benefits the corporation will see?
Well, yeah, I mean, $700 to someone who's making $30,000 is a huge amount of money. $700 to a multinational corporation isn't a lot of money.
They're not going to get $700 back. You know that.
Yeah,
Mike.
they're going to get a lot more, but it's proportional, of course. Now, keep in mind that single mom is probably working for a corporation that's going to benefit, and they're going to be able to grow more jobs and have better business. At the end of the day, though, we're increasing the standard deduction, we're increasing the child tax credit, and the House plan. That's the one that's passed. The Senate's still figuring theirs out. But these are all good things that people around this table, including me, are going to benefit from. I'm not a corporation. No one around this table is a corporation. But the tax plan is for everybody, not just, again, poor people don't pay federal taxes, so they're not getting a tax cut in this. Let's get that on the table.
Well, and the heart of the argument is, how are you going to grow the economy? Are you going to put more money in real people's pockets, workers' pockets, or are you going to give the corporations and the richest these tax breaks and then hope it somehow reaches the rest of us? And they had $1.5 trillion to spend, and they decided to spend most of it on tax cuts for the wealthy and the corporations. Those are the clear winners here. And so they made some promises to the rest of us, but they took away a lot of really popular things in the meantime. They took away the deduction for your state and local taxes, for student loans, really popular things and they said, well, trust us, you'll make it up. But then they put in here, because they needed to stay under spending rules, they put in there that was temporary, that we're going to do that for a little bit, but then, after 2027, you're on your own.
Laura, part of the problem that we face as journalists is trying to figure out what's the objective measurement of who this benefits, who benefits the most from this tax plan. Where do we go to find that information? Can we find it?
It's interesting because this is such a compressed time. Like, they're going to try and move this in a matter of weeks rather than months. And there's 2 different versions. There's the House version and the Senate version. It's all a moving target. It's exceedingly difficult to get a handle on it. You do try to look to nonpartisan think tanks that specialize in tax policy analysis to figure out who's going to win, who's going to lose. But it's a really complex system, so it's very difficult to figure out. On balance, how am I going to make out? How's the single mother going to make out? How's the corporation going to make out?
Joe, Rob Portman has said that he would support the elimination of the mandate to buy insurance in the Senate tax plan. That's a bit of a risky move. He's against Obamacare, has been from the get-go, but that's something that a lot of Ohioans enjoy. It may not be as popular back here.
Right, and he backed off of getting rid of the Obamacare earlier this year, the plan that they had for that. It was interesting that they threw Obamacare into the tax debate because that has polarized some people and made them take a stand either for or against it based on that one thing. So it'll be really interesting going on as we see how much is in these plans or isn't in these plans, combined with the fact that you've got Obamacare that might go away.
I just think at the end of the day, we have to keep in mind that the Obamacare mandate is a mandate on a person that you have to go get health care or you're going to get the IRS is going to come and tax you and penalize you. Getting rid of that doesn't get rid of Obamacare. It just tells someone that the IRS isn't going to come after you. That's probably a 90% positive issue for people in America and Ohio.
They also
the
lose
rest
the,
of
they
us
lose
pay
the,
for
but
that.
they lose the subsidy that they get if they do buy it on the exchange,
Right.
and the rest of us would pay for it because the younger people and more healthy people are the ones who are going to choose not to.
But it's their choice. They shouldn't be forced or the IRS is coming after you. That's the thing. We're getting
Well,
rid
I'm
of
sure
that.
the hospitals are not excited about absorbing that cost either. When somebody comes to an ER and doesn't have insurance, then we're going to be paying for that too.
Yeah, but they're just tired of doing charity care, which they have to because they're a 501c3. They just don't want to have to do charity
But the
care
cost
anymore.
gets smushed off to somewhere else. Like there's no free lunch.
Right.
Okay.
Amen.
With each week, more names are added to the list of high-profile people accused of sexual harassment, sexual assault, or inappropriate behavior. At the State House, 2 more resignations. First, Michael Primo resigned as Chief of Staff of the Senate Democratic Caucus because of what was called inappropriate conduct toward staff. Then a couple of days later, Republican State Rep Wes Goodman of Cardington resigned for what Speaker Cliff Rosenberger called inappropriate behavior in his office. Joe Ingles, is this the end, or do we expect more from the State House? I mean, this has been kind of a slow progression of complaints and resignations.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I think that we're going to see a lot more on this topic because, the situation is that a lot of people don't understand what the topic is. The topic is not about sexual behavior. The topic is about power because a lot of these, if you look at all these situations, pretty much someone has used their power to get sexual favors. And that is what it's about. And a lot of times when we're hearing these conversations, they're just missing the mark. But I think we're going to find more and more of this as we go along.
What is the atmosphere down there, Laura, right now?
On Capitol Square?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, news broke on Friday about Bill O'Neill, the Ohio Supreme Court justice, who put up a Facebook post.
Yeah, let's get to that. We have the Facebook post here. Bill O'Neill, Democrat Supreme Court justice, also a candidate for governor. You might say he raised a few eyebrows with his Facebook post that was posted today to his Facebook page. In it, he writes, and I'll read it for you. Now that the dogs of war are calling for the head of Senator Al Franken, I believe it is time to speak up on behalf of all heterosexual males. As a candidate for governor, let me save my opponents some research time. In the last 50 years, I was sexually intimate with approximately 50 very attractive females. It ranged from a gorgeous blonde who was my first true love, and we made passionate love in the hayloft of her parents' barn, and it ended with a drop-dead gorgeous redhead from Cleveland. Now can we get back to discussing legalized marijuana and opening the state hospital network to combat the opioid crisis? I am so disappointed by this national feeding frenzy about sexual indiscretions decades ago. Peace. Laura Bischoff, he did not get peace.
He did not get peace. No, he got trounced on the internet, essentially. It's interesting. He confuses consensual sex with sexual assault and harassment. They're not the same thing. He minimizes the serious discussion, national discussion that's going on right now about the treatment of women. It seems completely tone deaf to that discussion. Chief Justice Maureen O'Connor issued a very sharp rebuke. Nan Whaley and Betty Sutton, Democratic candidates for governor, have called for him to step down. Mary Taylor has spoken out against this. It was not a good day for Bill O'Neill.
Janetta, how do you react to that? I mean, just the way he refers to women in that is just.
I would not advise anyone to say that, let alone somebody trying to run for public office. It was very ill-advised, minimizing the victims. One of the reasons we're having this very important conversation is because brave women have decided to speak out. Even in that power dynamic, they thought that this is the time where I need to lend my voice to really prohibit this from happening in the future. And dismissing them and saying that this conversation is not legitimate, it has a silencing effect on people who did find their voice and were brave enough.
Like Republicans were not, they were posting on this, but they welcomed this. They didn't welcome the message, but a politician putting his foot on Facebook, foot in his mouth. Politically.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, these issues know no party lines. We've got Republicans that are idiots, and we've got Democrats who are idiots on this issue, both parties. I mean, we had 2 Democrat state reps that got found responsible for discrimination a couple weeks ago here down in Columbus. But this locker room mentality has to stop, both by Democrats, Republicans, by men and women. It happens on both sides, both genders, the whole 9 yards. But I think people are losing faith in our government, not just our federal government. Congress has a 13% approval rating, but in our state government. And the leaders of both chambers, House and Senate, need to crack the whip, put their foot down. I don't know what they need to do, but this has got to stop.
Joe, on the whole inappropriate behavior thing, they aren't releasing a lot of details because in these 2 cases that we talked about today, the 2 latest cases, it was consensual. There were no complaints of harassment or assault. Right. So there was no written record. So that, as far as we know right now, there are no written records of this. But why the secrecy, and should we know more about what exactly was going on from the House leaders?
Yeah, and you're right. We don't know a whole lot about those most recent cases. But the thing that really we're looking at is this has been going on for a very long time. This is not something new. And right now, women are starting to find their voice. And they're starting, as Janetta said, they're starting to speak out. And for the first time that I can remember in my lifetime, all of a sudden people are starting to believe them and listen to them and give them some credence instead of saying your skirt was too short, you drank too much, you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, that kind of thing. And I think that lumping it all in as inappropriate behavior, that one term encompasses so much, and the behaviors that you're looking at that it's encompassing are everything from a sexual assault to someone being discriminated against because they didn't like a comment that was made in their presence.
Okay.
Let's also not forget this is, misbehavior by office holders has been, a time-honored tradition. Think back to Mark Dan, Bob Mecklenburg, Jared Martin. Even more recently, Wes Rutherford being found passed out drunk in a McDonald's drive-thru with a loaded handgun.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Get to another topic. Here's a startling figure. Ohio schools last year suspended about 34,000 children from pre-kindergarten through 3rd grade. 34,000 5 to 9-year-olds kicked out of school for bad behavior. Now, a bipartisan group of state lawmakers wants to ban the practice of out-of-school suspensions except when the behavior poses a physical threat or violence or involves drugs or real weapons. Lawmakers and advocates say kicking kids out of school, especially low-income and minority kids, hurts their academic progress.
In fact, research is pretty clear that one of the factors contributing to the achievement gap is the considerable amount of time that struggling students spend out of the classroom. Already academically behind, suspensions only push them further and further behind and leave them feeling unwelcomed in the classroom.
Janetta King, actually 34,000 is down from the year before. It was 36,000. That's just an incredible number for little kids.
Little kids, yeah. It's really unbelievable. You can't imagine that 34,000 little kids were dangerous. So I actually am very encouraged by seeing that bipartisan group of lawmakers come together and tackle this and have a really respectable public policy conversation around this. So I think it's identifying this as an issue, saying that you can no longer do that. And then there's the second piece of making sure then we have other tools and other ways to help these students, because expulsions, especially at this age, are an indicator of future dropping out. And so you do want to make sure that you give the attention to these students, that you have those supports, that you have those interventions, and that you are providing those wraparound services that sometimes isn't always popular when you're talking about school funding. Oh, maybe we don't need that. But I think what this shows is, yeah, they do need some other tools in their toolkit because expulsion is not going to work.
You put yourself in the position of the teacher who has, you know, a class of 25 kids and 24 of them are behaving great and one student is misbehaving and disrupting the education of those other behaving kids. So you see where he or she is trying to maintain control of the classroom, but expulsion or suspension out of school is drastic.
Right, and it's just too punitive, and I think that particularly with these really young ages, it makes a lot more sense to work to correct the problem, work to help the kid figure out how to get along in class and you know, get his or her work done, rather than just excluding them, putting them out of school, putting them further behind.
How about bringing this, because there's arguments that we suspend too many high school kids, too many middle school kids, and the whole, you know, suspension to prison, school to prison pipeline arguments that are argued. Can this go farther, Mike?
No, and it shouldn't. I actually disagree with this legislation. Peggy Lander is a personal friend of mine, but I'm old enough to remember when the Republicans would say, we don't need D.C. telling us how to teach our kids when they oppose Common Core, but now Columbus is trying to tell all the school districts how to teach their kids. I think it should be a school, the principal, the teacher's decision. I don't know why these kids got suspended, these 9 and 5-year-olds. There was a reason, of course. Now, if you take away the ability for a teacher to teach the other 24 kids or 20 kids, whatever you said that number was, we're doing a disservice to the other kids. We need to make sure that the kids that are in the seat that are behaving are rewarded, as opposed to just focusing on the one that has the bad action. So I disagree with this legislation.
You don't think this should, I mean, if a 6-year-old, seriously, they should be tossed if they're misbehaving?
Well, first of all, we don't know what the facts are. You know, why?
They're 6. That's one factor,
Yeah,
6.
6. Yeah. Again, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a teacher. I wasn't there. I don't know what the situation was or what called for it, or 9 or 8 or whatever the age is. Yeah. But we've got to let the teacher be able to get rid of the bad apples so she can teach the kids that want to learn.
Well, I didn't hear the senator just say, you know, you're not allowed to do this anymore. This is about a discussion of what you do. You know, how can you support the schools so that they can make decisions on what's best for the kids? Because right now they feel like they can't, and clearly they're using the suspension this many times.
Comes down to perhaps better training, Joe, teachers giving them more training on how to deal with disruptive students.
Better training, better options. I mean, it might be as simple as having a counselor or someone that the student respects, taking that child away from the classroom situation where they're being a problem, developing a friendship of sorts with them and mentoring them, because some of these kids, quite frankly, do not have someone at home who cares enough to sit down and make sure everything's done that needs to be done for them to be successful in school.
Let's get to our last topic, the latest in the efforts to save the Crew. Mayor Ginther and the Columbus Partnership's Alex Fisher this week met with the Crew's owner and the commissioner of Major League Soccer in New York. City leaders are trying to find a way to keep the team in Columbus. The session did not go well. In a joint statement, Ginther and Fisher said, "We were united in putting all options on the table with the expectation in return that the MLS and the ownership would cease pursuing moving the team to Austin. Great American cities do not get into bidding wars over sports teams to benefit private owners. Garber and Precourt, the commissioner and owner, were not willing to do that today." The statement from the owners was equally as grim. It reads, "We were extremely disappointed that no concrete offer or proposal was presented, and then told by the City of Columbus that it would not communicate with us past today." Mike Konadakis.
Yes, sir.
You're a sports fan.
Huge.
What do you make of the, I'm not sure if you're a big Crew fan, but what do you make of this? And it sounds like that was their last chance to make a deal.
It was the nail in the coffin. But let's put those meetings aside real quick, and let's look at what the actual people of Central Ohio want. Crew is last in attendance. Less than 15,000 people that go to their games. They have the lowest season ticket holders. We live in a city of 860,000 people, and less than 15,000 people go to their games. So people are voting and talking with their feet. They're not interested. We don't want any taxpayer bailout funding. We don't want an arena downtown. We voted 5 times no for the Blue Jackets arena, and we still got the taxpayers that have to pay for it. The citizens of Central Ohio are obviously happy with the Ohio State Buckeyes and hockey to a small degree, I think. So please, let's just let this go. They're going to go to Austin. It's over.
How much can you blame city leaders for this, really, or is this just a business decision on the part of the owner?
I think it's a business decision on the part of the owner. If you know, there's a lot of empty seats at the Crew games, the few that I've gone to. I cannot see the business case for building them some downtown stadium at all.
Is there a lesson here for the Blue Jackets? They're doing well now, drawing well. Jeanette, I mean, is this a warning shot to city leaders? Maybe we should talk to the owners of the Blue Jackets, the new owner, if there is a new owner of the Blue Jackets, before it becomes to this point?
Yeah, you always hope there's a healthy relationship between those, would-be partners, but I just don't think that was the case with this owner. I mean, he had his foot out the door when he got here, and so it seems like there's a mindset where he's not even open to negotiating. That we absolutely should not get into a bidding war where we give everything.
Why even go to New York, Joe? I mean, they should have just said, come to me.
Very good question. I don't know why they went to New York to do this. So.
Yeah. All right. Final off-the-record parting shots. Janetta, you're up first.
Well, I have to encourage folks to go see the new dinosaur exhibit at COSI. It's actually in the very space where this show used to tape, and I think that there's a T-Rex that took your place.
As it should be.
Mike, when you tape Columbus on the Record this time next week, there will be 12 new lottery winners in Ohio. Those will be level 1 medical marijuana cultivator license winners. The only thing I can guarantee you is there will be litigation, and the lawyers once again will win.
Okay. Joe.
One thing, we were talking about sexual harassment and those sorts of things, and you know, I think the thing that is going to come out of this is a realization that you have to start very young talking to your kids about this issue, and you've got to train them so that they don't behave like, you know, like little brats and develop some of these kind of attitudes that have perpetuated in adults now.
And Laura.
Rich Cordray will get into the race, Bill O'Neill will get out of the race, and Michigan will beat Ohio State in football. I had to do it.
That's right. This is not an Illinois tie. This is a Syracuse tie, by the way. I'd like to thank the Columbus Dispatch and firefighters who hosted a forum this week on the dangers that firefighters face, cancer risks that they face, and it's a great series that they did, Unmasked. And of course, the key is education. Firefighters getting screened for cancer and wearing the equipment that's designed to protect them from harmful fumes. Check it out, especially if you know a firefighter or are a firefighter. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online, continue the discussion on Facebook and Twitter, and watch each episode on demand at our website, WOSU.org. For our crew and for our panel, have a good week.